My name is Brian Griffitts, sports performance coach. Been training athletes for 25 years now. I currently work out of Fishers under Griffitts Sports Performance, and I also work with ProNet Performance. Train athletes of all sports. I've worked with a lot of track athletes, NFL combine training, but as well as I know this is a track podcast, but I work with volleyball, basketball, football, work with all of them out there.
Okay. Good. Well, now we know you have a couple superstars on the track side. What is it that you do that's different than probably what most people do when it comes to training your athletes? Because you're training all the different sports, but speed is the biggest thing that you're training.
Correct. What's something that I do different? I mean, I guess I couldn't say what I do different. That I can tell you what I do, but I really don't know. Can't speak what everybody else does.
Fair enough.
I do know from my end, I think over the time of training in the past 25 years, one of the things is attention to detail. And then within that, what I see out in the independent training market is everybody wants to do the cute video for Instagram and do what I call the cute drills. How I describe my training to parents when I first meet an athlete and meeting with the parents is that I kind of put it in math analogy in there. Is if you remember back when your kid was in second grade and they had to pass rocket math. Now, before rocket math, they were counting lines and they had to add and subtract on their fingers, right? And if you can't pass rocket math, you're not going to do very well moving on to multiplication and division. If you're still trying to add and subtract by counting on your fingers, you need to know that like the back of your hand. You can't think about it anymore. And within training, it's kind of the same way. I think you see a lot of athletes working with people out there where they're doing these advanced drills right away, but they're not necessarily doing them correctly. They just look cute. To where I like to master the basics, and I spend a lot of time mastering the basics. And to some athletes, it might get a little bit boring because I don't jump around a lot. I like to start and correct a couple basic fundamental things and focus in one area before I start moving all the way around. For instance, with track athletes, I spend a lot of time on starts initially. We do technique drills for their run form on their top end, but I spend a lot of time working on their starts. Recently with Chloe and Layla, the two HSE girls that I work with currently right now, we're almost specifically working on their starts. Both of them had quite a few flaws that we've been able to clean up over the past few months leading into this winter. And they both look great right now coming out of the blocks. And within that, I like to cue one thing at a time. I don't like giving an athlete 5 things to work on and jumping all over the place. I like to take, okay, hey, here's one cue, and let's just work on fixing that right now. And I know that you may be doing these other 3 things wrong, but I don't care about that yet. Let's fix this one thing. And if you fix this one thing, it might clean up all 4 things that you have going on. So I'm really big on that side of it. But yeah, I think just in general, the attention to detail when I'm working with an athlete is probably one of the things that separates me out from other things that I might see out there a little bit. And that's, speaking in general, there's a lot of other great trainers out there as well. I think one other thing that would kind of separate me is I do spend a lot of time evaluating the athlete. As far as any mobility or stability issues that they may have, it doesn't do a lot of good to tell an athlete that they're going to be able to perform this drill or to try to get them to do a drill when they can't perform that range of motion. So if they have bad ankle mobility, if their hamstrings are tight, hip flexors are tight, it's going to throw a lot of other things off and limit their ability to perform the drills with the right form and technique that everybody wants to see that you might see all the pro athletes out there doing. So you got to kind of find and figure out where the athlete is with that. And it may take some time after you identify it for them to correct that specific limiting factor before they're going to be able to perform the drills completely correct. So you got to kind of work with each athlete where they're at.
How would you say, because, in this day and age, kids want stuff instantly and quickly. And so just as you're pointing out, there are some things that need specific work and going back to the basics. How do you equip the athlete from a mental standpoint, a patient standpoint to understand that this is going to take time for their performance to get better? What do you kind of help them understand? Like, what is it that you tell them? Because, right, they want stuff. No, I'm coming in, I'm working with coach. I want you to help me to be fast immediately. So how do you kind of temper that to help them understand?
If there's something along the lines as a mobility issue that might take a long time to fix before they can, reach their full potential, until they correct it, I try to find analogies that might make sense to them. So to give you an example of a couple, so for instance, I'll grab a pole and I'll hand them that pole and I'll tell them, hey, if you pull on this hard enough, that actually has a little break in it and you can pull that pole apart and stretch it out. And so I'll hand it to them and come on, pull it. And I'll tell them to pull it harder and they'll pull as hard as they can. That pole's not moving. And that's just like a coach or for me, I can tell you all day of what I want you to do. And you can try as hard as you can and put forth all the effort. But until you correct this limiting factor that you have, you're not going to be able to form that movement pattern. And then I might break it down to them as a matter of how much time it may take to do it. So I may pick something within the facility. So if there's like the ceiling tiles, I might pick a ceiling tile and say each tile is 3 months and give them an example. So if they're a freshman, like, okay, you have 3 months may sound like a lot to go under the discomfort of stretching every single day because nobody likes to stretch, especially young athletes, because it's not fun, it's uncomfortable, and it hurts if you're doing it right. And so breaking it down, like if you can just commit to this 3 months, and I show them the tiles, and I use my hands a lot when I tell stories. And if you can commit to that 3 months, if you look at all these other years that you have, that you're going to be able to perform better. You're going to be able to, if it's track, you're going to win more meets. You're going to have better times, right? Or you can train and you're going to be okay, but you're never going to reach your potential, right? Out of all these times, you look at the seasons, how many meets are you going to run? So you have your winter, you have your indoor. So if they're a freshman, right, or coming out of their freshman season and say they're going to be a sophomore, that's 3 more years of track season. Plus you have winter, or if they're running club, right? That's a lot of meets that they're going to run. So you have your choice. You can spend 3 months of really making a big difference and getting yourself on the right track to fixing it and correcting it so you can be closer to your potential, right? Or you can not stretch and you can spend the rest of this time just being okay. But if you're here and you really want to reach your potential, you got to commit to it.
I like that. I guess Coach is right. We have a lot of kids who are like, right now, I want to be state champ. That mindset there is really different. How do you take it? Like when you have a lot of different kids who are in different places, and I know that you pay a lot of attention to detail. Do you get off into different ways that they can help themselves recover in terms of whether that's utilizing other people like chiropractors or physical therapists, or even getting into the nutrition component? Do you delve into that at all?
If it's needed with an athlete, as far as recovery goes, in all honesty, I don't spend a ton of time with that unless I think that it's really needed. And then I spend my time in my lane, and like what you said, I'll refer out, whether it be to chiropractor, physical therapy, any other modality out there that I think and that I have contacts with that would benefit that individual athlete, depending on what they have going on, to help them reach their performance if it's needed. 100% I refer out all the time for things like that. As far as their regular recovery goes in nutrition, that's not my lane either. I teach them, I'll give them some basics, but if they need really specific work and they want to spend the time to do that, again, I refer that out. I like spending my time in my lane and what my expertise is.
I'm with you. Okay.
Would you say that based on you focusing on more of the basic, again, meeting the athlete where they are, that you have that mindset because it helps with prevention of injury? Do you see those as things like as you fix the athlete is less likely to have an injury because they're now their technique is right, which is going to help with their speed? Or how do you kind of adjust based on, hey, if this athlete keeps doing this, it might cause an injury, so let's scale back? And
100%, that would go down the lines of training the athlete where they're at. So again, it's kind of like trying to do trigonometry when you can't add and subtract yet. That would kind of go down that lane, and depending where that at. Now, if that athlete can do trigonometry off of day one, hey, we're gonna do the advanced drills if they're capable of doing them. But if they're not, right, again, it just goes back to training where they're at and figuring out what that is. So, individually with with that athlete, if there's something specific that they need to work on technique wise. What I guess, to give an analogy for that, what I see a lot of, if an athlete, as far as track goes, if you just tell them to sprint as fast as they can, they're not going to be able to make the adjustments that you want as a coach. So what I like to do is I may have to slow that down. Like, okay, hey, let's walk it, right? Let's do it at 50%. Then once you start doing it and you relearn that muscle memory and that muscle pattern at 50%, let's step it up to 75. Okay, and then we'll work on some 100% efforts so they can get to the point where that muscle memory is there at 100%. Because most athletes in whatever sport it is, that if you just tell them to go 100% effort every single drill, they're just going to recruit back to what their muscle memory is and go back to the bad mechanics if it's something like that needs to be corrected.
A couple things. When you start to break down like something like that, when athletes technical stuff, do you do like a lot of video stuff like that to show them, to teach them? Because a lot of athletes, you could explain it all day long and they're like lost a lot of times. So is it like, do you go through and put them on video so you can be like, see, this is
100%, 100%. It's a lot more difficult the bigger your groups are. But as a private coach, when I'm training the bigger groups, we may be able to get as many video reps in. But when I have a smaller group in there, if it's a bigger group, we learn from everybody's video. I just can't review every rep. If I'm working with one, or if I'm working with, one or two athletes, like for instance, when I'm working with Chloe and Layla, right now we're reviewing every block start and every single rep. When they come back, we're reviewing that rep and we're watching it in slow motion. And we're watching it in full speed and we're looking for, what type of adjustments need to make, and they're able to see it. And I think it does, the athlete being able to see themselves, I think helps them out a lot as far as their learning and ability to make the adjustments on whatever, as a coach, that you're trying to correct.
All right. Now, I'm a little off, but Chloe was the state champ, or was she runner up?
She came in second. She was runner up. Yeah.
She was runner up.
She did just recently commit to Iowa.
She did?
Nice.
Yeah. She committed a couple days ago.
Nice.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Coach, you talked about, you coach athletes who are in other sports. Would you say, in your opinion, just throwing this out here, that it's good for athletes to play more than one sport at the high school level? Do you feel like they should specialize and focus on one thing? What have you?
I love that question. Here's my opinion on that. That's a great question. You hear all the time, and you hear that the stories about the NFL All-Star, the NBA All-Star, that they were able to play multiple sports, and that's what you should do as a young athlete going through high school. That person made it to that level because they probably walked into the room and they were the best athlete no matter what. They didn't have to have any skill at the sport. They could just walk in the room, and because they were the best athlete, they could excel within that sport and do it in high school. Unfortunately, around here, especially in this Indianapolis area, we have so many of these big 6A schools that there's so much competition that there's only a small percentage of athletes that are going to be able to do that and actually be able to play. If you don't start to specialize or spend more of your time, if you're kind of in the middle line as an athlete or with that sport, if you don't start to specialize in some of these big schools early, you're going to fall so far behind. It's going to be difficult to find playing time, through your high school experience because of how big the schools are. So if you're that type of athlete, then yes, 100% play all the sports. But unfortunately, more kids out there, don't have that ability to be that top 1 or 2% of the athletes in their school to be able to do that. And most athletes have to start specializing early. If you go to a smaller school, 100%, it's a lot easier. But a lot of these big 6A schools around Indianapolis, it's a lot more difficult for most athletes to be able to do that. Even though most coaches out there say it's the best thing to do. As far as high school, youth-wise, 100%, because there's so many sports out there that kids can participate in from the youth level, right? And there's so many different levels to play different sports because it's going to help them overall as an athlete as they get older. But in high school, I think it's pretty difficult unless you're that top 1 or 2% in your high school.
Yes, and I still like the multi-sport athlete. But I get exactly what you're saying. Even though I know a couple kids who have done that. They've been football players who also played basketball, who also ran track or did
Yep.
been in track. And that was great. And I think at minimum, you should be a two-sport athlete. Especially if you're a football player, you gotta go run track.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to put that
Hey, I'll
out.
give you an example on that one. So John Anthony Hall, right? Just a kid that I know because I grew up with him. He went to school with my son, right? So he moved to town. So quick story, he moved to town in fourth grade. He didn't come to football tryouts, right? Because he was out of town. So in football, you get to the blind draft and youth. The kids didn't come to tryouts. You just start picking the names. So I started picking by weight. And he was the next guy up, next heaviest guy. So I'm like, okay, John Anthony Hall. So I emailed the family. Nobody knew who he was. His dad emails me, hey, track podcast. Hey, just wanted to let you know we're in Florida for nationals for track. That's why we weren't at tryouts. And we'll be back, whatever, in a week. Looking forward to meeting you and playing for you on your team. This was in fourth grade. So I knew him since then, and he's been, since that time, he was a three-sport athlete, football, basketball, track, right? I think he was the only kid or only male in Fishers High School out of everybody there that did three sports like that and was able to excel at it.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult for most kids in a 6A school to be able to do that many sports.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but I think what happens is I think it happens too early in a lot of kids because you have the Tiger Woods effect and the Williams sisters effect. I say it is because Tiger's been playing golf since he was 2, and the Williams sisters been playing since they were 8 or 9, and that's what you got to do and just do that. And I
Yep,
think a
at the
lot of
youth
people
level, yes.
I think people took that out of context and they were like, oh, well, this is the way to do it. And you see, I only named 3 people because that's the only 3 people who's really done that. The only exception of people who should be like kind of in their sport all the time that I feel would be gymnasts and maybe swimmers. But outside of that, everybody else, you have to move around a little bit.
Yeah, from a youth aspect, I agree 100% that the kids should be, in multiple sports and exploring everything and, getting different movement skills and strengths and coordinations from playing multiple different sports coming up as a youth athlete.
And I think the
I
thing in high school,
100% agree with you.
yeah, well, the thing with high school, it would be what they're trying to do with it. Like, where are they trying to take the sport? Like, is it I'm trying to be active, and so I can maybe I get a scholarship at a NAIA school or a D2 school, or am I trying to be really just D1 athlete where I just love this one sport so much, So now I'm going to focus all on football, and to their defense at this point with NIL, I can understand the kids saying, "I'm just going to play football," or "I'm just going to play basketball," because
so for instance, let's take a 6A school.
Yeah.
How many kids to pick any 6A school? How many kids do you think are playing basketball in 8th grade? So, for instance, pick Carmel, Fishers, Westfield, any of these north side schools is where I'm at, so I kind of know the schools, whatever. So, for instance, Fishers has 2 junior highs that feed into Fishers High School. HSE has 2 junior highs that feed into HSE High School. Each school, take for instance basketball, or you can take soccer. Basketball has 5 people on the court at one time, right? And then on that varsity team, that's freshmen, that's 4 grades that have the opportunity to play on that varsity team. And you have, maybe you have just from the junior high teams, the kids that made the junior high. This isn't including all the kids that played youth recreational sports, say basketball. There's probably 1,000 kids in 8th grade, right? You get to high school, 5 make the high school team.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Well,
5 people play.
Yeah, but
that's hard. That's a lot of kids.
It's a different sport, though.
Mhm.
It's because it's so, and it's in Indiana. That's a different.
Look at all the youth soccer kids out there.
But
There's
soccer,
only
you have more
11 of
people on
those
the field.
kids that play on that varsity team at one time.
Yeah.
They're on the field. 11. There's thousands of kids playing soccer in everybody's town around here. 11 make the high school, or actually play on the high school team. It's hard to play multiple sports at 6A schools.
Yeah. I'm with you a little bit. I still like, I want to agree with you, but I don't want to agree with you.
I agree with you 100%. I wish that everybody could. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying that it's very difficult for most kids to be able to in high school where we live at here.
Yeah.
That's all. I agree with you that everybody should.
They should at least
I'm just
try.
saying that it's difficult for kids to be able to do that is what my point is on that.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, do you want to share like how people can get in touch with you if they want to have their kid work with you, or social media, all that good stuff?
Let's see. How to get in contact with me. So email would be Brian, BRIAN at gspindy.com. Phone number 317-523-7385. Instagram would be gsp.indy.
Okay.
And ProNet Sports, I believe. I would have to look it all up.
Well, if they have the GSP
ProNet Performance, I believe, is my.
What is it?
My other Instagram, ProNet Performance.
Oh, okay. Well, they can reach out to you on Instagram if they get one of those, and then we have the phone number. They can shoot you a text. So I appreciate you joining us. I really value what you do. I've seen your work for years. We've been at this for a while. Well, again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me on, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, for sure.
Have a good one.
All right. Thank you.